I'm John Law, this is Chasing Cars, and today I'm quite excited because I get to introduce my next long-term test car. It's the Kia EV3, and we're going to be running this thing for the next 6 months, and it is quite the departure from the Ford Transit Custom I was running before. Much more my size, much more my speed, because I live just a few Ks from the Sydney CBD. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be telling you what this car is, why we're running it, and what we hope to find out by running it as a long-term test vehicle. You see, we don't just do these randomly here at Chasing Cars. Long-term test cars are a really interesting proposition and quite a privilege because we can take a car that either we didn't like at launch and see if it grows on us over time, and also vice versa, which is the case for the EV3. Coming after the EV5, which we were quite disappointed with here at Chasing Cars, the EV3 was a real breath of fresh air. It rode really well, has a nice steering feel, has a really clever interior, snappy technology, and just feels like the right size for a small SUV. Plus, with a solid real-world range claim in this larger battery vehicle, well, it seems like it could be the perfect car and not for a particularly ridiculous price. So over the next 6 months, we're going to be starting with this Earth trim, a mid-spec variant, and swapping through a couple of the other trims to see if we can find any big glaring issues with the Kia EV3 range. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments, so leave them down below and hit subscribe if you don't want to miss any more EV3 content or any of our other Chasing Cars content. Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car.
Brought to you by
Budget Direct.
Let's first talk about the pricing and the range structure of the EV3 because this is where it's a little bit controversial. The entry-level Air cuts really sharp shapes with its $48,990 drive-away price, making it competitive with the likes of a BYD Atto 3, MG S5, and even the larger Geely EX5. But by the time you get up to the larger battery mid-spec Earth variant, you're paying about $14,000 more on the road. This car's $62,690 drive away, which isn't cheap for a small SUV. That said, you do get a generous battery. 81.4 kilowatt hours is pretty much biggest in class and gives it a 563 kilometer WLTP range claim. So this car is set up for more than just running urban errands, which is a really good thing. Should give it a broad area of operation, which we're sure to test. In the real world, we're seeing about 16.6 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks in terms of efficiency, which is giving us 480 Ks or so from 100% of charge, or for a more real world figure, you're going to be able to drive about 400 Ks between 90 and 10%, which is a nice comfort margin for an electric car like this, which isn't fitted with an LFP battery. There's lots of equipment in this mid-spec Earth. You get heated and ventilated seats, a heated steering wheel, twin 12.3-inch displays with a 5-inch HVAC monitor in the center. You also get a wireless charging pad that's all nice and rubberized with bumpers to keep your phone in, and plenty of other clever practical storage touches like these push-out cup holders, this nice center armrest here, another little pocket, and really good door bins for a Korean car. You even get this thoughtful 3-stage range display which gives you maximum, minimum, and your actual predicted driving ranges, which is super helpful when you're driving in the countryside. And yet we come back to the fact that this Earth at 14 grand more than the base car seems like a pretty poor deal. And then by the time you get up to the GT line, which is nearly 70 grand drive away, well, the truth is you can get an awful lot of Tesla Model Y for that price. By the time we say goodbye to the Kia EV3, I'll have crunched the numbers and come back to you with real world differences in terms of lease payments for each of the variants, because I think that'll give us a little bit of a better idea of how much more money you're going to pay in the real world to step up through the EV3 range, and therefore perhaps the mid-spec Earth and even the top-spec GT line will make a bit more sense. That brings me on to my first dislike of the Kia EV3 after living with it for about a month. And although it is powered and the space on offer is pretty big at 460 litres, it's actually the boot that I'm having trouble with because it's got so much space that it needs some cargo storage solutions. If you look at something like a Skoda where you've got nets and cargo dividers included as standard, those little things can make a really big difference in day-to-day livability. For me, when I go shopping, I only have 2 or 3 bags of shopping and they tend to slide around the boot a little bit. And because the carpet's quite scratchy and firm, it's very low friction, so you get even more slippage. Yes, there is a 2-stage boot floor and plenty of space under the boot floor, but that's one of my very small, very little nitpicks that I found so far in the EV3. Just the fact that a little bit of extra development and smart solutions could go a long way in making this an easier car to live with. Plus, you don't get a spare tire under the floor, even though there's plenty of space for it. Now, I know it's an urban EV, but in truth, it's got plenty of driving range to take you out of the city and into the countryside, at which point you feel like a spare tire would be a nice thing to have. What I'm already really loving about the EV3 is the driving experience. It is so mature for a small SUV that's just 4.3 meters long. It feels grown up, consistent, smooth. For example, the ride quality seems to be the perfect balance of plush and comfortable, but without being underdamped. And when it comes to cornering, it's got a nice, firm steering feel that is definitely not sporty, and I mean that in the best way possible. The EV3 isn't trying to be a small sports SUV. This is just a good old-fashioned, comfortable, well-judged vehicle. It's even really quiet here in the cabin. Obviously, the electrification helps with that, but you can hear that there's almost no road noise from the tires, even at up to 110 k's an hour on country roads and motorways and that sort of thing. It's really quiet, really well damped, really serene, and just a lovely car to be in all the time. There is one caveat though, and that is this car has developed a creak. I'm not exactly sure where it's coming from. It sounds like it's coming from the roof in the back of this car. I'll try and mic it up so you can hear it. After a bit of driving in the countryside and a couple of dirt roads, it's gotten definitely worse. So we're going to get that checked out, see if it can be fixed, and we'll report back to you on that and how the Kia dealership experience is, because that's all part of a long-term test vehicle. So that's a brief, warm welcome to our new EV3 long-term tester. Hopefully Kia's going to be able to remedy that creak pretty quickly, because it is starting to drive me a little bit nuts. Apart from that though, this car is already proving to be a lovable companion to live with. Let me know if you want to see any comparisons or interesting tests with this EV3, but I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, and make sure you hit subscribe to Chasing Cars if you haven't done so already, and as always, thank you very much for watching.